You're holding an old photograph. Maybe it's in a shoebox you haven't opened in years. Maybe it's framed on your wall. Your thumb traces across its surface, slightly rough, like memory made physical. The image shows someone you love who's gone now. Or maybe it shows you, decades younger, standing somewhere that no longer exists. That person in the photograph, those exact atoms, in that exact configuration, under that exact sun, where are they now? Not metaphorically, physically. Where did that moment go? You think you know. The past is behind us. The future ahead. Time flows like a river, and that moment in the photograph is upstream, frozen somehow, preserved in the amber of space-time. This is what common sense tells you. This is what feels true when you hold that photograph. Stop right there. I have to stop you. Because everything you think you know about that photograph, about the past, about why you can't go back to that moment, it's all magnificently wrong. You've been told time travel is impossible because of the grandfather paradox. Go back, prevent your own birth, create a contradiction. Nature doesn't allow contradictions, so time travel must be forbidden. It's elegant. It's logical. It's complete nonsense. Here's what bothers me. We'll come back to this. We've let a philosophy student's thought experiment masquerade as physics for 70 years. The grandfather paradox has absolutely nothing to do with why you can't travel backward in time. Nothing. The universe doesn't care about your paradoxes. Lightning doesn't check for logical consistency before it strikes. Nature is absurd and wonderful, and it doesn't give a damn about our word puzzles. The real reason Feynman said time travel is impossible is far more disturbing. It's not that killing your grandfather would create a paradox. It's that there's number 1955 for you to travel to. The past isn't a place. It was a configuration of jiggling atoms that the universe has already forgotten. That moment in your photograph, it doesn't exist anywhere in the cosmos. Not frozen, not waiting, not preserved. Gone. And once you understand why, once we peel back the layers of this onion together, you'll never look at a photograph the same way again. Let me ask you something that sounds simple but isn't. If the grandfather paradox is what makes time travel impossible, why do some of the most brilliant physicists on Earth keep studying it? We'll answer that soon. Here's another question that will matter later. What did Feynman mean when he said a positron is just an electron traveling backward in time? Hold that thought. Was he being poetic? Mathematical? Or was he telling us something deeper about why that moment in your photograph can never be reached again? The answers are stranger than any paradox. And they start with understanding what physicists discovered when they looked too closely at Einstein's equations. Something embarrassing, something they don't advertise in popular science books. We'll get there. But first, let's find things out together. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. And if you've ever held an old photograph and felt the weight of time itself, hit subscribe because this journey is about to get much stranger than you expect. Let's destroy some comfortable lies about why you can't visit that moment in your photograph. Wrong explanation number 1. Paradoxes forbid time travel. This is the one you came in believing. The universe, you think, has some kind of logical consistency checker. Create a paradox, and nature says error does not compute. But nature doesn't work like that. Nature doesn't know what a paradox is. A paradox is what happens when human language fails to describe reality. It's not reality refusing to cooperate with language. Think about it. Does a river stop flowing because Zeno's paradox says motion is impossible? Does Schrodinger's cat actually care that we find superposition paradoxical? The universe computes. It doesn't philosophize. Every nanosecond, it's calculating the trajectories of a septillion jiggling atoms. And not once does it pause to check if the results make narrative sense. The grandfather paradox is a human problem, not a physics problem. Remember this. We'll need it later when we talk about what really prevents time travel. Wrong explanation number 2. Einstein forbids it. This one's trickier because it sounds scientific. Relativity. The speed of light. Surely Einstein's masterpiece prevents backward time travel. Here's the embarrassing secret physicists don't advertise. Einstein's equations actually allow time travel. I'm not joking. But anyway, wait, let me back up. In 1949, Kurt Gödel, Einstein's friend and walking companion at Princeton, found a solution to Einstein's field equations that permits closed time-like curves. That's physicist speak for time loops. Einstein was disturbed, deeply disturbed, but the math was flawless. If the universe rotated, which it doesn't, But if it did, you could travel into your own past just by flying in a wide circle. No faster than light travel required. Just go around. The sausage of space-time could loop back on itself. It gets worse. Roy Kerr found that rotating black holes, which definitely exist, might contain closed time-like curves near their centers. Kip Thorne showed that traversable wormholes, if they could be held open with exotic matter, would create time machines. The math keeps saying yes. The equations keep permitting it. So why can't we do it? This is going to matter when we get to the real answer. Wrong explanation number 3. You can't go faster than light, so you can't go backward in time. This misunderstands both relativity and the proposals for time travel. Wormholes don't require faster than light travel. You're not racing through space-time. You're taking a shortcut around it. Imagine space-time as a piece of paper. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The point is this. None of the usual explanations work. Logic doesn't forbid it. Einstein doesn't forbid it. The speed limit doesn't forbid it. So what does? The answer involves something Feynman understood about the difference between mathematical descriptions and physical reality. And it all starts with understanding what that moment in your photograph actually is. Or isn't. The real answer is thermodynamic, not logical. And to understand it, forget everything you think you know about time. We need to peel back the layers of the onion until we reach the core. Start here instead. Remember the photograph from the beginning? That moment it captured? Let's trace what actually happened to it. Imagine you're at the beach. You build a sandcastle. Elaborate. Towers, walls, a moat. You take a photo. Then the tide comes in. The castle is gone. Not moved. Not hidden. Gone. The sand grains that made the tower are scattered across miles of beach. The pattern, the information that said, "This is a castle," has been erased by entropy. Now, could you walk back down the beach and find your castle? Not rebuild it. Find the original? Of course not. Not because walking is forbidden, but because the castle doesn't exist. The grandfather paradox asks, what if you went back and knocked down the castle before you built it? But there's no castle to knock down. The past isn't there. This will become important in a moment. Let's go deeper. Imagine reading a book where each page bursts into flames the moment you turn it. You remember chapter 1. You can describe what happened, but the page is ash. Can you flip back to reread it? The grandfather paradox assumes you can. That chapter 1 is still there, waiting. But physics says the page is gone. Not hidden in space-time. Gone. Still too abstract? Let's make it visceral. Picture the universe as a river that dissolves its own banks behind it. Most rivers flow between stable shores. But this river doesn't just flow, it erases where it's been. You can't paddle upstream to yesterday because yesterday's riverbed has crumbled into the current. The water you're floating on right now contains the dissolved atoms of what used to be solid ground. The past didn't freeze behind you. It liquefied into the present. This is what entropy means. Not just disorder, erasure. Information about exact past configurations gets scrambled beyond recovery. Not hidden, not encrypted, lost. Nature is absurd and wonderful in this way. It creates and destroys information constantly. Remember earlier when I mentioned Feynman's positron puzzle? Here's where it matters. Feynman understood this deeply. When he showed that antimatter behaves mathematically like matter traveling backward in time, people got excited. Time travel. But Feynman was careful. Mathematical descriptions aren't physical realities. Stay with me here. This distinction is everything. You can describe a positron as an electron moving backward, and the math works beautifully. But that doesn't mean the positron is actually visiting 1955. Why not? Because 1955 doesn't exist. It's not a place waiting in space-time like a room in a house. It was a configuration of atoms. Every star in its position, every grain of sand, every thought in every brain. And that configuration has been dismantled. Completely. Irreversibly. The jiggling atoms have jiggled into new patterns that have never existed before. Do you ever wonder what percentage of the atoms in your body right now were in your body when that photograph was taken? The answer might disturb you. Tell us in the comments if you want to know. Remember earlier when I asked why brilliant physicists keep studying time travel if paradoxes forbid it? This is why. They're not trying to solve paradoxes. They're trying to understand what mechanism prevents the universe from allowing its own equations. Einstein's math says yes. Reality says no. That gap, that's where the truth lives. Let's find things out together by looking at what happens at the cosmic scale. Let me show you something that will permanently change how you see that photograph you're holding. That photo on your phone from last week. Look at it. Really look. You think you're looking at the past. You're not. You're looking at light that bounced off atoms that no longer exist in that configuration. Those atoms have moved. The air molecules have scattered across the hemisphere. The skin cells have flaked off and become dust. Even the atoms in your brain that formed that memory have been replaced. The photograph is lying to you. It shows something that isn't anywhere in the universe, not frozen in a block universe, not archived in the sausage of space-time. The pattern existed for 1/300th of a second when your camera's shutter was open. Then entropy began its work. Think about what this means at cosmic scale. A star explodes. The light travels for 1,000,000 years and reaches your eyes tonight. You're not seeing the star as it is. You're not even seeing the star as it was, because as it was implies that moment still exists somewhere. You're seeing evidence, forensic light, proof that a pattern once existed, like finding a footprint in concrete. The foot is gone. The moment of stepping is gone. Only the impression remains. The universe is a burning fuse. Picture it, 14 billion years of fire advancing through time. The glowing point, that advancing flame, is now. This exact moment. Behind the flame, ash. Ahead, unburned cord. But here's what disturbs me. You cannot travel to the ash and unburn it. You cannot jump ahead to unburned cord. You can only exist at the burning point. And you are the burning point. Every atom in your body is part of the advancing flame of now. You're not watching time pass. You are time passing. This bothers me. It should bother you. Remember what I said about Feynman's positrons back in Act 2? This is where that puzzle resolves. He saw particles that seemed to move backward in time, and he described them that way because the math was elegant. But he knew they weren't actually traveling to the past. They were moving forward through time like everything else, just with opposite quantum numbers. The universe has one direction, forward, into configurations that have never existed before. There's no rewind button because there's nothing to rewind to. The cosmic videotape doesn't exist. We are the recording head, writing reality as we go, with no way to go back and read what we wrote because the tape dissolves behind us. Common sense is just a collection of prejudices we acquired by age 18. And one of those prejudices is that the past still exists somewhere. This is why Hawking proposed his chronology protection conjecture. Not because of paradoxes. Remember, nature doesn't care about those. But because the universe seems to conspire to prevent any configuration that would allow backward time travel. Build a wormhole? Quantum fluctuations destroy at the moment it becomes a time machine. The universe doesn't just lack a mechanism for preserving the past. It actively prevents any mechanism that might access it. The grandfather paradox was never the guardian at the gate. It was a distraction from the real truth. There is no gate because there is nothing on the other side. Now let's bring this back to that photograph in your hand. Look at that photograph again, the one from the beginning. Hold it. Feel its edges. That moment it captured, those jiggling atoms in that precise arrangement, they're gone. Every person you've ever been is gone. The child in your childhood photographs, those atoms are scattered across the planet now. Some are in other people's bodies. Some are in the ocean. Some are in the air you're breathing right this second. You are made of recycled moments, but the moments themselves are extinct. This should terrify you. But wait, here's where the story turns. That photograph in your hand, it's not a window to the past. It's something stranger and more precious. It's the only place in the entire universe where that pattern still exists. That configuration of light and shadow, that exact arrangement of faces, it exists nowhere else. Not in the sausage of space-time, not in memory, which changes every time you recall it. Only in that photograph. Your childhood home, if it's been demolished, it exists only in images now. Your grandmother's face? The pattern lives only in photos and neurons, and the neurons are unreliable narrators. The photograph is testifying to something that the universe has forgotten. This should make you sad, but here's the thing. Peeling back the layers of the onion reveals something unexpected. It also sets you free. That embarrassing thing you did in high school, it's gone. Not just socially forgiven, physically erased. The universe has literally forgotten it. The atoms that comprise that moment have no memory of their former arrangement. Only you do, and you can let it go. Every photograph becomes an act of rebellion against entropy. You're saying, This happened. I have proof. The universe forgot, but I didn't. Nature is absurd and wonderful in this way. It erases everything but allows us to keep evidence. Remember how we started with you holding that photograph, wondering where that moment went? Now you know. It went nowhere. It didn't go anywhere. It simply isn't. But the evidence is in your hands. Tonight, find an old photograph. Not digital, physical if you have one. Hold it. Feel its edges. Understand what you're really holding. The only evidence in the cosmos that this exact pattern of light and matter once existed. The past isn't behind you. It's gone. But the evidence is in your hands. You can't travel to 1955. There's number 1955 to travel to. But you can hold proof that 1955 happened. That's not nothing. That's everything. That's all we have. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Let's find things out together. If this shifted how you see time and memory, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more journeys into what physics tells us about being human. And tell us in the comments what photograph you're going to look at differently now. Thanks for staying until the end.